I'm not sure of the name of it. Okay, recording in progress.
Yeah. Okay, Marianne's getting ready here. I better start recording here as well.
Can you record?
Yes, it's recorded, being recorded right now.
I mean, Paul, are you allowed to record? Sometimes I have to click something special. I can't find it.
I am recording.
Oh, excellent. Okay.
Okay, so it is the 20th of August, 2021. And this is a recording of Damien John Nott. And this is Paul Sperry and Ross. Almost said Ross Perot.
Ross, no, please don't. Jeez, my gosh. All right, so let's go. It's 6 o'clock, 6 p.m. Denver time. Let me introduce Damien. Let's get this show on the road. So Damien John Nott have witnessed his first UFO sighting at the age of 9 years old. Damien's story came to public attention in 2012 after contacting a UFO research organization in an attempt to find an answer to his ongoing experiences with the UFO phenomena. These experiences are still ongoing in a small country town in Dunedoo, New South Wales, Australia. I'm bad in Aussie, so I'm sorry about that. Damien's story has appeared in multiple magazines around the world, as well as in television interviews. He has appeared in a number of documentaries, including Australian Skies One, excellent, and also has produced the Fractured Realities documentary series. Through his work and experiences, Damien has contributed to various books and internet publications, local and overseas TV programs, such as Ancient Aliens on History Channel, Netflix, and Amazon Prime. Damien is currently working on his book, yet to be released, which will be an in-depth analysis of his research to date. A separate book on his life experiences is also currently in progress. Damien has become an independent investigator and photographer of this phenomena. He has collected an enormous amount of evidence to include film, photograph, footage of multiple sightings he had witnessed over the course of his life. He has since amassed a prolific body of work, documentation of his encounters that remain to date, the unexplained and unparalleled in a field of ufology. He has founded the famous Australian Aerial Phenomena Investigations organization. It's called A.A.P.I, AAPI.info. Finally, Damien, he is a visionary, true visionary. He's a kind, authentic, very humble man. He is all about service to others and not to service to self. With this presentation, Damien comes to us with a profound message he will be presenting on and sharing evidence-based research of identified aerial phenomena in Australia. In this message is of discovery and awareness. Please welcome Damien John Nott from Down Under.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on the show. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
You're welcome to go ahead and speak whatever it is you'd like to tell all of us. We're not interviewing you. We're letting
So Damien, just tell us a little bit about yourself, what I didn't say, or whatever you want to kind of tell us as a preamble to the footage that you have shared with us, and your experiences, your life experiences that are relevant.
Sure. Well, I'll touch on a few things lightly. Basically, when I was 9 years old, I witnessed a UFO, a red ball of light. It was following me down the street, mimicking my movements. When I would stop, it would stop, and when I would keep walking, it would follow me. So it was a really bizarre experience, but it wasn't until I was 12, 3 years later, I saw the same ball of light, a red ball of light, maybe a little bit bigger than a basketball, with my brothers, and it was coming down from the sky. We were camping out in the backyard, and sure enough, this ball is getting bigger and bigger, and then it starts getting chased around the sky for a period of 15 minutes by two other colored balls of light. which was really strange. So the whole sighting was quite long. It went for about 15 minutes or so, and kind of blew our minds when we were kids, you know, and that kind of backed me up with what I saw 3 years earlier with the red ball of light following me. And so it kind of gave me the push or the impetus to want to find out what it was that I saw and what it was that, you know, my brothers and I witnessed and my father witnessed that night as well. And
You can't hear the speaker.
so for the past 5 years, so for the past 33 years, sorry, I've been looking into the subject in every level possible, on every, you know, from books to documentaries to, you know, witnessing the phenomenon myself. I'd probably seen about maybe 12 to 15 my entire life, leading up to 2012 when I came up to Dunedoo in New South Wales. And that's a strange sounding name and everything, but it's Aboriginal name meaning black swan, which a lot of towns in this area are named after Aboriginal names.
Damien, people
yes.
are saying they can't quite hear you still. Can you just really project, talk past your phone to the far wall and talk a little louder? They really want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, sure. Is that a little bit better?
That is, so go ahead. Damien's
is,
calling in, by the way, from a town of 700 in remote Australia over a cell phone because they don't have much Wi-Fi. And so it's a pretty, this is some limitations, but we're going to make it work.
Yeah, we're going to make it happen. That's for sure. That's for
So
sure.
I'll do this if I can't hear you.
No worries. Thanks for letting us know. Yeah. And basically, so when I came here a decade ago, I started seeing stuff from the second night I was here. A large ball of white light moving across the neighbor's house at the back here, and just so low, it was actually illuminating the rooftops as it went across, and then disappeared. And you know, all the cattle in the town were going crazy. All the dogs, everything. So yeah, I decided then and there that I was going to get a camera and start to learn about photography as much as I could and try and capture these things as much as I could. So a decade ago, I pretty much all my spare time I put into photography, learning about cameras of different makes, models, you know, learning about lenses and, you know, apertures and all that sort of stuff. And so yeah, a bit of a crash course in photography. So I started up A.A.P.I as well a decade ago. After people in the town here and down in Sydney as well started seeing a lot of the UFOs. And so to this date, we've got about, I think, 18 investigators around the world who, a lot of them honorary members outside of Australia, of course. But yeah, a lot of guys are capturing some really, really good stuff all around the world, which is great. And a lot of real decent footage, which is really good. And you know, what we're looking for is footage with witnesses, you know, video, photographic evidence, that kind of stuff. You know, any other type of evidence as well, electromagnetic field effects, you name it, radiation, that type of thing.
Damien, gotta have you talk louder. Really speak loud. We're just not hearing you.
Not hearing me again still.
Okay. This is a little too conversational. Got to be a little bit more like you're on a stage.
Yeah, alrighty. Okay. Well, I'm projecting as much as I can.
That's better.
All right. Well, and so for a decade now, yeah, I've been looking into the topic a lot heavier than what I have been in the past, going into different areas, also a lot of hotspot areas around Australia. I've been lucky enough to come back to this town a year ago, after spending several years again in the city, and the activity here is still through the roof. I mean, it comes and it goes. It's not all the time. It's not constant, but when it is constant, you'll get it 2-3 nights in a row, and then you might not get it or see anything for a few weeks or whatever. But it's yeah, it's pretty good to know that the phenomenon is still around. So I'm lucky in that respect. So I have been able to get, you know, better cameras over the years, better, you know, 4K and all that sort of stuff. It's building up with quality of cameras and whatnot. So we're able to capture them clearer than ever before. Not that that really matters anyway, because anybody who, you know, UFO hunts or whatever you want to call it, or sees UFOs and films them, will tell you that no matter how good a camera that you actually have, even if it's a 1 million megapixel camera, not that they exist, but you know, you're still going to capture a ball of light, and it's not going to tell you anything or much at all about the ball of light you're capturing. So it's still fascinating though, and it's still a form of evidence. as far as I'm concerned. And, I'd rather capture photo and video of what I'm seeing than just not capture anything and just tell stories to people. It's always better to have some evidence to back up your story, especially with witnesses and that as well. So yeah, I've been really lucky, and so I've been doing conferences for the past decade around everywhere. Also, my own presentations, that kind of thing. Appeared in Ancient Aliens, a few documentaries. We've been lucky enough so far in the 5 documentaries that I've appeared in since 2012. UFOs have shown up for 3 out of the 5 documentaries, which is really, really good, and it's quite rare. That doesn't happen. So it seems as though they know that we're talking about them and filming them, and that's part of the high strangeness of this whole topic, is that they seem to be hyper aware of what's going on around them, not just with individuals on this earth, but they seem to come at times during wartime, pestilence, famine, you name it, when humanity is at there's a lot of trials and tribulations happening in humanity. That's when a lot of UFOs are seen. Whether there's a reason for that, who knows, but they do seem to come more at times when humanity's facing a bit of strife. So yeah, I find that interesting, and the whole topic and the whole phenomena is an interesting phenomenon. I've been lucky enough to meet people from all around the world who are having some pretty insane experiences, and so I'm pretty it's been a bit of a crazy crash course in ufology, I guess you could say, the past decade. But when you believe in something enough, and when something's true, especially with me, I'm a bit of a hard head. I'll go against. If someone tells me that you're wrong or this or that, I'll prove them wrong. That's just the way I am. It's this whole thing with the UFOs and everything. It's cost me friends, family, jobs over the years, you name it, just for speaking out and speaking up about this stuff you're seen as crazy. I don't care. I don't care what people think. It really doesn't matter what they think is in their brain. They don't pay my meals. They don't put food in my mouth. As far as I'm concerned, what I'm seeing is real. Millions of people around the world throughout history have seen them. So it's not just me, it's people everywhere. But the quantity, I'm lucky to see the quantity that I have. I consider myself very lucky in that respect. So as far as I know, the phenomenon itself is very strange. I don't believe it's as straightforward as a lot of people believe. Tend to think that UFO aliens come from the Pleiades star system, or they come from here or there, or that's not something that aliens would tell us humans, that we come from the Pleiades, because the Pleiades, or the Orion, is a star system that humans gave a name to. So why would aliens call their own star system the Pleiades? It doesn't make any sense. So there's a lot of strangeness to this topic, and there's a bit of a trickster element to it as well. And so it is quite strange, and it's not as forward as what people think. And my next documentary, Haunted Skies, which I'm doing with author Mike Williams, that's going into that heavily, into the whole paranormal mixed in with UFO side. And there are a lot of connections with the two phenomenon. There are a lot of strange, maybe quite tedious connections, some quite strong. But we're going to be putting them out there in this documentary, and people can decide for themselves. I'm not here to tell people what this phenomenon is, but I'm here to show people what's going on, and people can make up their own mind. But the fact is, there are a lot of connections between different phenomena on this earth, a lot of connections that a lot of people don't really look into. But when you do, you start saying, okay, well, there may be something to this. And my own experiences through my life tell me there is something to this. There's something deeper, on a much deeper level, in regards to the paranormal connection. I mean, I've seen them both. I've seen the ghosts, what you call them, poltergeists. I've captured them on film, doing weird stuff. And also the balls of light in your home, balls of light in the sky, balls of light out of my balcony. Not the dust particle balls of light, but I mean balls of light physically you can see with the naked eye before filming them. So yeah, there's some really strange stuff. And a good friend of mine, Mike Williams, said to me, he has a good analogy that I like to pinch every now and then. It's, if you're a ghost hunter and you're inside your home and you see a ball of light, you're likely to call it a ghost. So if you're a a farmer and you see a ball of light on your property, on your farm, you're more than likely to call it a min light, or what you guys in America call the mystery lights or ghost lights, so like in Marfa, Texas, and Green Mountain and stuff like Brown Mountain, stuff like that. But if you're a ufologist and you see the same ball of light in the sky, you're more than likely to say it's a UFO. But the reality is, I believe that they are one and the same phenomenon. They seem to give off the same signatures. They both break the Earth's magnetic field whenever they come from where they come from. I believe they're coming from the same place. I believe that what scientists call dark matter is quite possibly the place where they're coming from. And that's interdimensional kind of aspect to it. It would explain a lot of things and a lot of the high strangeness about the UFO phenomenon, that it's not just all physical in nature, i.e. just aliens coming here. Sure, that may be a part of it, but there's something a lot deeper going on, and it seems to be observing humanity on a very deep level. So.
Damien, I've got a question for you. First of all, people are making comments. The ones that cannot hear are suggesting to use earphones. So I'm going to tell everybody here. Earphones. Yeah, I'm going to say to the other people, try out some earphones, because 2 or 3 people are saying that's helping them. The question I wanted to ask you here is, you said that you sometimes get a feeling before looking or before seeing your effects. You've seen them at Dunedoo, Tiree, Tipperary, Gosford, Balcombe Hills. Do you think that they are communicating with you to let you know, to be aware prior to having the experience, to give you the evidence that you can share with others?
Good question. No, I don't think they're trying to communicate with me. I've never had them speak into my head, or I've never heard voices or anything like that in that type of communication. But in the way that in the past I've had strange feelings, like feelings of anxiety, gone outside, looked up, and there's been something sitting straight above the house. And that's happened on numerous occasions. It got to the point where, and I'd start bringing people out so other people would see it, just in case there was something there when I'd get a feeling. And sure enough, there'd be something there and other people would see it as well and say, how did you know that, or whatever. And I've got my camera up filming it. So I don't know whether there is some sort of unknown kind of mental telepathy or some kind of communication going on. They've done some I put thoughts out there in the past, and they've done some really strange things in the sky. But then other times I've put thoughts out there and nothing's happened, and time again. And so it seems to be on a rare occasion, it's either coincidence or it's they are actually picking up on your thoughts, and they seem to do funny things sometimes. If you think a certain thing, they'll do the opposite. Or you say go left in your mind, they'll go right. Which is really weird. And other times, you'll be standing next to 10, 15 people doing a sky watch, and you'll be looking up at the sky, and you'll see, 10 people will see a light or a strange something doing something in the sky that's not normal. And then at the end of it, when the UFO goes away, I'll ask everybody to draw what they saw, and you'll get 8 out of the 10 people who saw the same thing I saw. And then you'll get 2 out or 3 out of the 10 who'll see something completely and utterly different than what everybody else saw, but they'll see the same thing, which is really strange. So kind of makes me wonder, it's got something to do with the human mind, as to why more people see UFOs than other people, or some people see UFOs at all. Is it got to do with our minds, or whatever the case is? I'm not 100% sure, but I know that Harvard Medical School were interested in me for a study years ago, a couple of years ago now, and it was after a certain incident happened with a UFO, and I got quite unwell, and we took several months trying to figure out, what was going on with me and my health and everything after this, UFO. My dog and I saw this UFO anyway, and I used to always think or hope that these things, whatever they are good, and they, have our best intentions in mind and that kind of thing. Like most people hope nowadays, everyone wants the aliens, the extraterrestrials, or whatever you want to call them, to come down and give us, all this information and give us free energy and give us all this sort of stuff. And unfortunately, I'm still waiting on to see this. But the thing is, I'd always hoped that, they let me photograph them, they let me film them most of the time, and I don't have a problem with them. And then all of a sudden this one incident happens, and it turns my entire thought pattern on its head in regards to the UFO phenomenon, to the point where I didn't know whether they were good now or not. I started looking up more cases where they've been seen around the world doing bad things or nasty things to people or whatever the case is. And there are some cases that have been swept under the rug where UFOs haven't been as good-natured as what a lot of people hope they are. And this is part of what I'm speaking about as well in Haunted Skies. I want to touch on that and let people know that there's more to the topic than what certain individual cult leaders will tell you on this earth.
Damien, there's a number of people asking comments here in the background. Could we stop for a few minutes to let people reply or comment to you, and then maybe get into a video after that?
Sure, not a problem.
Okay, so I'll open up the screen here. If somebody's got a comment, raise a hand, or let me know. Like Earl, did you want to say something? Yeah, there's some people here that are, here. Go ahead, Earl.
Just that it's hard to hear unless he slows down and is very distinct. I mean, you're very easy to hear, Paul, but Damien is not.
He needs to hold the microphone.
Can he hold the microphone up to his mouth?
One comment is that some of us may not be used to the accent, and so maybe Damien, if you can slow down a bit, for at least there's 3 guys here that are all together that are not hearing it. And I don't know if you could, Earl could put another speaker on it. But anyway, headphones, I guess you can't do that if you got 3 of you. Any other questions or comments here?
Hold the microphone.
Okay, not seeing anything else. Let's go ahead and move on, and let me know when you want to do a video here, Damien.
Yeah, put a video on whenever you're ready.
All right, then let me go ahead and get that first one going here.
So this is a compilation video of some of my favorite photographic captures. Now, a lot of these captures also have video to go along with them, but that'll be in another compilation with the video. And a lot of these captures too, the video versions will be coming out in Haunted Skies and Fractured Realities Part 2. So so these are the photographic, this is the photographic side of the compilation. So.
Okay, give me a second here while I find the right video. Almost there. Give me a second. I'm not seeing the video that I've got it on my screen, so I've just got to see it. Let me try again.
Questions while you're looking, Paul?
Yeah, that's a good idea. Anybody have questions while I'm trying to get the video going?
Unmute yourself and ask a question.
Damien mentioned experience that changed his perspective on these phenomenon that he and his dog had. Can you tell us what that was?
Yeah, sure. It was 2 years ago, coming up in October this year, when it happened, and I was in my garage. Basically, it's my office, working on a documentary, and I came outside for a break and a bit of fresh air, and sat outside the door and at the foot of my driveway, and then the next second, a light has sprung up above my tree, a purple light, And it was different than any UFO I'd seen before. I've seen ones up close before, and I've never seen them do this, but this thing was a bit smaller than a basketball. But it had white that was like radiating, a whitish purple that was radiating to the outside edge, and the outside edge, the peripheral, got more purple and purple as it went out. And I was just watching it, and my dog was sitting next to me, and just above the tree, maybe about 13 to 14 feet at a slight angle. So I'm just standing underneath it watching it. And the next second, bright flash, and I look up, I covered my face for a second, bright flash, it's gone. And so I was like, okay, that's really weird. Dog and I went inside, and then all of a sudden I just got really tired and went to bed, crashed out ended up crashing on the couch in the garage. And then next morning I went in and seen Mel and bought her in a coffee, and she said, oh, look at you, what's wrong? And I said, what do you mean? She goes, look at your face in the mirror. I'm like, I went in, and my whole face was all red and splotchy, and my eyes were nearly stuck together, and I was like really, really white, pale, apart from these red splotches. And anyway, within 2 to 3 days, I started having seizures, really bad seizures where, and one of them I actually fell over and broke my back in 3 places. So it wasn't the best thing to have. But so that put me out of action for a while. But what they found was, and after several months of Mel and I going to doctors and all this sort of stuff, trying to find out what was going wrong with me, my whole system was off. I was throwing up, and I was going through stages where I'd be really sick. And they found a burn mark on my arm, on my left arm, where I covered my face from this bright light. And the burn mark was through my jacket, and it got progressively worse over a period of maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks. And then it started to blister up out of nothing. And then these really strange greeny yellow blisters on my arm, all up and down my arm, in a kind of weird pattern almost. It was really strange. And none of the skin specialists knew what to do, what it was, what's going on. No one knew anything. So it was really, really bizarre. And no one could explain it. We went to specialists, professors, spent a lot of money trying to work out what was going on. They said it was definitely connected to the seizures. It was definitely connected to, what had happened, but they couldn't work out what it was. They found out that I had what's called HO, which is hypophosphatemic osteomalacia, which is a bone disease, which is like 10 times worse and rarer than osteoporosis in older people. And so they couldn't work out how at the age of 40 years old I got this hyper rare disease, and they couldn't work it out. So for the past 2 years I've been taking medications and bone medications and all this sort of stuff, trying to get better and get my back better and all that sort of stuff. And it's just been, so after that, I started looking into cases where other people had been injured or hurt or inadvertently, in the wrong place at the wrong time or whatever the case is. And I was thinking that was me. I was just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. But no, it seemed more like it was on purpose, whatever this thing was. And the bright flash, it seemed like it was on purpose. I don't really know what it was at the end of the day. Never seen a UFO like that before. Have never seen one since. So it really affected my life. I started looking at things a lot differently in the UFO field, and looking at the people who are saying that these things are all good. And I found that a whole bunch of cases where UFOs have actually, and there was a really good one in Claris, Brazil, years ago, an island off Brazil, and where UFOs are actually seen coming out of the jungles and sending beams of light down at people and attacking them, leaving radiation burns on them in the street, killing a couple of people, making tens of dozens really, really unwell and sick, probably shortening their life. And these UFOs were sending beams of light down through people's rooftops, and it was puncturing, this beam of light, puncturing their roof somehow, almost like a torch, but a solid beam torch, very strange. And it would hit people while they're in their beds, and leave radiation burns on them. And they said 100% it's definitely radiation burns, and the people that were dying of radiation sickness. So this has happened before on this earth. And so anyone who thinks that they're all good and all that, you haven't had the experience that I've had and other people have had. So, it's, as far as I'm concerned, I know that there's more to the phenomenon than most people would know. So that's what affected me, and that's why got back into it about a year ago after having nearly a year off because of it to recover from my back and all that sort of stuff. So I've gotten back into it now for the last year. So I'm glad because I'm capturing some good footage again. So
I'm going to try this again. I have never seen a Zoom where I cannot find the video I want to show. So I'm trying an alternate way right here. So let me see if this works here for us.
Paul, I did see something on your screen for a
Yeah.
little while. There we
Yeah,
go.
well, do you see that now?
I do.
Okay, let me go ahead and try to play this.
Okay.
And you can go ahead, Damien, and talk to this if you like.
It's working.
okay, this is part one of some of my best captures. So it's in several different areas all around Sydney and New South Wales, Queensland. So from the country to the city, we're seeing these things. Balcombe Hills, this one here was seen by thousands. Here in Dunedoo again. So you can see the evolution of my cameras over the years as well with this phenomenon. Earlier in the time, I had a basic little mini handheld Canon camera and went on to a Nikon DSLR and moved on up from there. So a lot of these UFOs, like this one here, is captured from video. This is a recent one in Dunedoo here. This is another one that was taken on video, changing shape in the sky. Another one from video here just recently, these orange balls of light that we're seeing around the areas. There's a mountain range just north of me here where I can see from my balcony, and we're capturing a lot of UFOs hanging above this one spot in the mountain range and actually diving into the ground at high speeds. And we've worked out just recently, it's not just diving into the ground. These lights are actually diving into the Trafalgar River, which is the small river we have here in Dunedoo, which doesn't really make sense because it's not a large river. And this is the area I'm just telling you about now. A whole bunch of UFOs have been seen right above this mountain range. Some of them coming from up high, stopping, changing direction, doing a 45-degree turn, and then stopping again, and then changing direction again at another angle and diving into the mountain. No sound, no anything, no crashes, no fire, just disappearing into the mountain. This is part of the phenomenon that's been seen time and time again. Myself and Mike Williams, we witnessed a tube of light, probably about between 5 to 7 feet in length. It's hard to tell because it moved very quick, and probably about 1.5 feet, 2 feet, 3 feet in diameter. Dive into the ground over my left arm and again melt into the ground and disappear. And the following morning we checked the footage on the cameras behind us, and the cameras picked up 13 of these same lights coming from up high, changing direction multiple times and then appearing out of nowhere and then diving into the valley behind us with no sound whatsoever. So yeah, it was really strange. There's a lot of it's not as straightforward as flying saucers coming here from Venus, is what I'll say. These things, I think this is a natural phenomenon, natural in the sense it is alien in a sense, but alien to our belief system, not alien as in little grey aliens. That may be a small part of it. But whatever it is under these lights, you're not going to tell with any type of camera in the world. You're not going to tell what makes up these lights. You're not going to tell how they operate, who's operating them, what's the mechanism behind them, so it really doesn't matter what type of camera you can have, but a lot of people really want the crystal clear UFO footage. It has to be a structured craft, or else in their minds it's nothing. But the reality is of the phenomenon is that 83 to 85% of recorded phenomenon all around the world is balls of light, or BOL type UAP, of different sizes, shapes, or when I say shapes, different sizes, different colors, and so the rarest ones being purple and red, blue, and green, and then you work your way back up to the least rare, and then you've got the orange, and you've got yellow, and you've got white. They're seen more than any other type of UFO around the world, especially the white and the red UFOs orange UFOs. Sorry, orange UFOs too are seen a lot more in country areas compared to city areas, I found. So in my other documentary, Fractured Realities Part 2, I'll be going into all the different types of UFO slash UAP phenomenon that I've witnessed personally in the skies, that I've had reported to myself as well, showing the different types, the different characteristics of the different UAP that inhabit our skies, because a lot of them do really different things, really strange things, and they seem to stick to that MO or modus operandi, which is pretty bizarre. So I'm thinking, yeah, part 2 is going to be all about the types, the characteristics, what they've been seen doing, and all that kind of stuff. Part 3 will go into a lot of the better footage, the more recent footage that I've captured, and trying to give an explanation for what I see, or at least my own hypothesis on what it is that I'm witnessing. So yeah, it's a funny one, because the more that you look into this phenomenon, the stranger it becomes. And not only that, the more you look into it, the 33 years ago, I would have told you, if you'd have asked me where do they come from, I would have said Mars and little aliens, little green men from Mars. But now, if you ask me, I'd more honestly tell you I really don't have a clue. And the honest people in this field will tell you that the more you look into it, the stranger it becomes, and the more, when you think you know an answer, the further away, you're actually further away than what you thought when you think you know an answer. So you really need to keep your mind open in the subject, but not so open that your brains fall out your ears. That's not what we want. And that's what happens to a lot of people in this phenomenon. They tend to go down the rabbit hole and conspiracies and all that kind of stuff. And the reality is that that's all just a little side topic, and it takes away from the main topic, which is the UFO phenomenon, which is existing here and now. It's in our skies around us, probably now more than ever in history. And a lot of ufologists out there don't really film or photograph the phenomenon, but what they'll do is, they're more historians than anything. They'll concentrate their whole lives on one case from the 1940s or 1950s, and then, you know, devote every little bit of attention to that case, you know, to the government to get more information about that case, whereas they're neglecting the phenomenon here and now as it's happening. I mean, anybody can go and look at cases of UFOs and study the history of the topic and the subject, and all the studies that have gone into it and all that sort of stuff, and individual case reports and whatnot. But at the end of the day, no one really knows what it is. And that's something I can say 100% myself. And that's why I believe that certain governments, i.e. alphabet agencies within governments, i.e. the CIA, and also the Air Force, have been the ones who have been holding this a secret above all other organizations in America and around the world. They're the ones that have been charged with keeping this a secret, and they've worked together in the past to keep that a secret. And so, yeah, I really don't trust any government release of disclosed information or anything like that. I mean, we waited 6 months for a 9-page report that said nothing, except that they may all be explained with further information. So didn't really say much at all.
Hey, Damien, this is a good place for another break. We've got people that are asking questions in the chat that you don't see. So I just was reminded here that our introduction, we neglected to tell the process here for people that don't know or are new. And so basically, we're going every 15 minutes, ask a few questions, save the longer questions for the end. And if you want to raise a question, there's a raise hand button that you can press on your Zoom, depending upon your version of computer or Zoom version. The button's found either under your reactions button, your chat button, or your participants options. And if you need any help, hit the chat button and Marianne will try to give you a hand. So I'm looking at some of these questions here. Emily's got one. Emily, if you'd like to unmute yourself and ask them directly, otherwise I'll read it for you.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Damien if he thinks the light that he's in different colours is significant in any way. Like, is it always the red, and the blue, stuff like that?
Oh, hi, Emily. Yeah, great question. There does seem to be certain links between the colors, characteristics of the colored balls of light. They do seem to act in certain ways, which is really strange. Like, for instance, the red ones have been known, and also the white ones too, on a different level, have been known to mimic humans, following humans, mimicking their movements. Also, same with aeroplanes as well. Like the Foo Fighters, they used to mimic the planes, hang off their wingtips when the planes would move or do a little S-turn or something. The UFOs would follow them and mimic what they're doing, and that's been a staple throughout UFO history and UFO lore. And yeah, but I do believe that from what I saw when I was 12 and witnessed that red ball being chased around the sky by the blue ball and the yellowy green ball, it kind of made me think of almost like that they were at war. Like, it was really strange. Why are they keeping this red ball away from me and my brothers, or my brothers and I? It didn't make any sense at the time. But the more you look into it and the more you see actual older cases, and there's a case in Dusseldorf. There was also a case in Basel, Switzerland, several years later. It's Nuremberg, Germany, and Basel, Switzerland, where they witnessed, and it was on the front page of their newspapers at the time, and thousands in the towns had witnessed on several different years apart balls of light flying through the sky of different colors, cigar-shaped objects that would release balls of light, which would then shoot beams of light at each other, and then some would crash to the ground on fire and smoke would come up. And it's basically almost like what I saw and what I've had actually described to me by other people around the world as well, who've seen almost like galactic war above our heads. When I say galactic war, I mean, who knows really what they're doing, but it seems like they're trying to keep the red ones away from people for some weird, strange reason. Now, who knows why that is? We can only speculate, right? Until we actually know them and can speak to them. And even then, who's to say if you could trust what they tell you? You know, I mean, they could tell us humans anything and we'd sort of run with it because we wouldn't know any different. And so, yeah, I think the red, there's something connecting them. And I know that some of them can change color as well. Now, I'm taking that into account too, as they may not all be separate entities. It may be one entity that can change to multiple different colors. But at the same time, when I've seen them in different colors, I've also seen them chase each other in different colors as well. So yeah, it's pretty strange. Who really knows? A lot of the orange ones are associated with cattle mutilation as well, if you believe in the cattle mutilation side of the UFO phenomenon. So a lot of them are associated with that. And yeah, it's really strange. So interesting question. Thank you.
We have 3 more questions here, Damien. Carol, would you like to unmute and ask your question?
Yeah, so I was just thinking maybe it was gamma radiation poisoning or some spread spectrum of electromagnetics poisoning that hit you. And maybe some other kind of radiation we don't know about yet, like key energy, that kind of thing. That's kind of like coming to my mind.
Yeah,
what do you think about that?
I thought about that too. It seems almost like a microwave kind of radiation energy to be able to burn my arm through my jacket without affecting the jacket on the outside, which I don't know of anything that can do that. And what I found too was about a week later, because I'd broken my back and I had a bit of time on my hands, so there was a bunch of DVDs just inside the office door. And so I was like, oh, I'm going to watch a movie. Why not? You know, and so I went up and Mel grabbed us a movie and opened it up. And sure enough, the discs inside, the DVD discs inside the case had been melted and somehow just almost completely destroyed, with the outside cover being intact completely. And this was just behind me when the incident happened, when my arm got burnt. And so there were several DVDs in a row from the top down that had the same kind of burn on them that I had on my arm, which was really, really strange. And we couldn't work that out, what type of heat could cause it. So yeah.
Fascinating. Maybe get a physicist
radiation
to look
or
at
something. Don't know. Yeah.
Okay, we've got 4 more questions. So Ross, you've been having your hand up for a while.
Yes, thanks, Damien, for sharing. So without sounding too derogatory, kind of thing, if someone have harmed me to this kind of extent, I will be really pissed. Be burned and be injured. I would say, kind of a GFY. that kind of thing, hey, boogers, get out of my face, get out of my life. That is not very, I guess so, being nice to kind of, harming innocent human beings. So what the hell is going on? This is not very benevolent. This is very malevolent, a kind of experience. How, kind of a, come on, bloody oath. What's up? What's going on here, Damien? So,
yeah, it's a bit like that. It really shook me. It shook my world. It caused a lot of drama, a lot of medical problems and issues and misdiagnoses and all this kind of stuff. Like literally 8 months worth of it. Just one doctor saying this, another specialist is saying this, a professor's saying this, and it's just like, who do you believe at the end of the day? And this is a topic you can't really talk about with doctors. My GP is different. He's known me for 16 years, and he knows, that my family have seen him with me. He believes me. But it wasn't until I think 3 years ago, before I came up here, he actually saw a UFO as well. And so then from then on, and now he's launched himself into watching Ancient Aliens and stuff like that. So there are some doctors that, are open-minded to the topic. But a lot of them, and most of them, what I found, especially the more educated doctors as well, hospital doctors and you name it, they seem to, the whole stigma is still attached to seeing UFOs, and I mean, for instance, I went to see a doctor at Dubbo for a migraine that wouldn't go away for a couple of days. And then I'm sitting in there, and I was in the paper that previous weekend that he had on the side of his desk, and I showed him myself in the paper. I said, look, this is what's giving me migraines. And he goes, oh, okay. He turns around and starts typing out something on his computer. And then he turns back to me and gives me a piece of paper and says, before I can help you with your migraine, go down and see these people. And it was for a mental health hospital assessment. So because I was in the paper and because I've seen balls of light, I'm a crazy dude who needs mental health treatment. And this is the attitude with a lot of doctors. So it's hard to open up to these professors especially and say, oh yeah, I've been exposed to this or I've been exposed to that. I did mention, because one of the main causes of hypophosphatemic osteomalacia is exposure to radiation. Now, a lot of people from Hiroshima and Nagasaki that lived on just the outskirts who got doses of radiation, not big enough to kill them, but they got hypophosphatemic osteomalacia, which is HO, which is this rare bone disease caused by, and there's cures for it, like there's a phosphate injection and a few other things you can do like a couple times a year or whatever, and ongoing and stuff like that. But it's hyper rare. None of the doctors could explain what happened to me,
Damien,
why it happened. Yeah,
bloody oath, okay? Damien, bloody oath. That's attack on you. Attacked on you. I mean, I will be really pissed personally. But just me.
I'm not happy about it, but hey, I'm still living and I'm still going on. So
I hear you.
It's not gonna stop me. Nothing's gonna stop me. The only thing that's gonna stop me is being 6 foot under. So.
Okay, there's another question here that's similar. Kim, would you like to unmute and ask your question?
Yeah, my question was the same that somebody else asked earlier, was what his experience was that changed his whole philosophy on aliens, because before they were positive experiences and now they're, he can see the dark side of it. So that was my question.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I've had many experiences myself, and some not so good, they scare me, but who knows what's going on, right?
Yeah, it's like we're crabs in the bottom of the ocean looking up at a sea of life above us and not really knowing what's going on. Yeah, it's a pretty strange existence we live in. And I think if people knew just how strange it was, a lot of people would quite possibly freak out and who knows, not want to work, not want to pay their taxes. And I mean, they did a study like years ago into the possible repercussions of what would happen if the government or UFOs were disclosed to the public. And they said back then that we would revolt, we would turn against governments, we'd stop paying taxes, we'd stop working, we'd go to the hills. And that may be true for some people. And I guess back in the day, we were a lot more religious than what we are now. because of the internet and atheism, and that's creeped in and stuff like that. So we're a lot more religious now, but at the same time, so I don't think, a lot less religious. I don't think it would affect us as much as what it would have done back in the 70s. I don't think we're going to stop paying taxes. I think the Pentagon, with their release report, was really great timing, because everyone's attention is on COVID, is away from UFOs. Everyone's attention is on other things in the moment, just surviving, so they can sneak in some little UFO disclosure here and there and kind of tickle us a bit and, get us going a bit. But I think at the end of the day, it's going to come from humans, by humans, for humans. It's not going to, no government is going to say, okay, UFOs are real, believe us now all of a sudden, after we've been lying about it and rubbishing witnesses for 60, 70 years. So, just we've got to keep doing what we're doing and keep our eyes up to the skies, I guess. It's a bit corny,
Damien, we've got 3 questions, but one of them is relevant to this. So Clodagh and Nancy, if you don't mind, I'm going to hold off until the next break for you two. David Armstrong, would you ask your question and then we'll move on?
I'm real curious if you feel that this was an attack at you, or if you just happened to be in a spot where the radiation was getting off and you just couldn't get away from it.
I thought that. I wondered if I was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. And also, I remember at the time when this bright flash happened, I remember feeling like a warmth, not a heat, but a warmth go through my body. It was just noticeable, but it was there. But a lot of people said to me afterwards, when I've told them about this, they've said, do you think it's the government that are doing this, that are pulling up in a UFO and zapping you, or whatever the case is? No, why would it be the government? I mean, I could just walk down the street and they could arrange for someone to stab me or shoot me and then never be seen again. Why would they use a UFO if they had that technology anyway? But I really don't know, mate. As far as I know, it's just, I can only speculate what it was. And I really, look, to be honest, it pissed me off. This whole thing really has put kind of like a spanner in the works for me. Like I said, I wanted to believe that, not that they were all good or anything. I'm not that gullible. I know that there's probably good and bad throughout the whole universe, but I mean, I wanted to believe that, hey, at least they let me film them. I don't have too many problems like that. Every now and then a battery will fail, or a memory card will fail, or a camera will fail. But other than that, I haven't had really any other problems until this incident. And so, yeah, I wish I could really give you a proper answer. I want a proper answer myself, for it. I've become reserved to the fact, though, that I'll probably never find out what it was. But, at the end of the day, just keep going on, right?
Well, I'm going to ask Damien, you mentioned in our earlier interview that you've gone through, 52 phones, 19 computer failures, and 16 cameras that have died, and you're telling me that you're not special?
That's not special. That's that's not cost effective at all. That's terrible. If I had a superpower, it'd be what? Destroying a camera equipment? That's not good. No.
My point is, why would it be happening to you and not to your neighbors down the street, unless there was some connection with you that's different from anybody else?
See, I try to believe that has nothing to do with me, and Mike knows this if he's watching. I'm always blaming the government, and he's blaming me and saying he calls it my Kavorka, which is, that Jerry Seinfeld episode where Kramer had the Kavorka, and all of a sudden he could pick up any woman and he could do all this, and he was top of the, Kramer. And so he calls it the Kavorka, which is some special weird kind of gypsy power or something. And I'm like, no, dude, it's I don't know if it's me. I don't think it's me. I've always been a weirdo, so it could be me in some sort of strange way. But yeah, I have had a lot of bad luck. That's all I'll say with camera equipment and things like that.
Okay, let's go ahead and let you continue with your part of the presentation. Do you want to look at another video now, or do you want to talk some more?
If we could chuck on another video and I can run everybody through.
Okay, I've got to do this. I'm doing this in an alternate way here, so let me see if this is it.
Tipperary, our first time. We've noticed that a lot of times we go to certain areas, the hotspots, we'll see UFOs almost straight away. They'll be in the background. We'll be lucky enough to capture them. I use a lot of composite photography nowadays as well, where it layers photograph on top of photograph. It lays UFO hunters and Olympus camera where you can absolutely brilliant. Here's another one, multiple photos, videos with UFO. Again, heading to a conference when we see a lot of these UFOs. We're filming documentaries, or I'm being filmed in them, or we're heading to conferences, presentations, when they show up all the time. Not all the time, but literally all the time. Really strange timing. Whiteboards.
Oh, I see. Off the sound.
Again, or the last three heading to and from conferences. One of the first that I filmed with Mike Williams, well, and hear him swearing in the background because he couldn't get it on his viewfinder. Kind of destroyed the film in a good way. This I call it heading back from a presentation on video and photograph this green UFO. Ask a couple of people in the plane who were with me. So these unusual conjoined lights we can separate as well. We see a fair bit of them. And some of these quite possibly could be just ball lightning. We can't say they're not UFOs either because they have pretty much the same characteristics. Unblasted with one another. But the whole plasma look to them and how they can move, go through solid walls, a lot of objects. Same. More composite photography. UFO called what I call flasher type UFO or UAP. They disappear and reappear at certain times. As bright flashes in the daytime sky, nighttime sky. They hang around the same area. Very, very unusual. Metallic kind of ovoid shaped objects. We've seen them metallic balls landslide once into a place called Breakneck Mountain in Taree, in West Taree. And there was a ball, just first time we'd ever been to this place. And the whole area around is all Aboriginal land and you're not meant to be up there unless you get permission. And so we're up there and we're pulling up in the car and there's this metallic ball that's spinning around on the mountaintop over here, just in front of us. It's spinning and spinning. It's reflecting the sunlight as it spins around. And we're just watching it. And I got my camera out as we're pulling to a stop. I've gone snap, snap like this. We pulled out, grabbed the better cameras, jumped out. And as we've done that, it's gone straight up into the air. But before it went straight up into the air, it opened up, the metallic part opened up and it revealed an orange ball inside, a BOL or a ball of light inside the metallic outer shell, which is incredible. It was amazing. And then it just went whoop, straight up into the sky and was gone. And got one of my best UFO photographs is of this thing opening up and then straight up into the sky. And I mean, stuff like that, it's like they know when you're going to be in certain areas, certain places at the time and everything. It's like they know, which again is really weird. A lot of people point to that as evidence that they're somehow time travelers coming back from the future to come and see us here now. And whether that's true or not, who knows? That could be another possibility. I'm keeping all my options open when it comes to the phenomenon. You have to be, like I said before, open-minded enough to be able to change your viewpoint on the subject. And a lot of people in this topic don't really want to, once they stick with something and tell people what they believe, they don't really want to change their beliefs, even though they'll stick to that steadily. But you have to be able to, like with just a police officer, investigator, detective, you need to be able to depends on what evidence comes to light, you need to be able to change your viewpoint and go down another route of inquiry. And that's what the best ufologists can do. Don't stick to what you think you know. A lot of people do that, and unfortunately, again, go down the rabbit hole. So, yeah. But Yeah, one of the strangest things of this topic is how it affects people too. The psychological side of it, which I've seen multiple times, how it what's the word? A nice word I'm looking for. Yeah, how it affects people's brains. Some people, like ego, right? It's a huge part of humanity. I'll have someone contact me, just say, this is just an example. I have someone contact me and say, hey, guess what? I'm just like you. I've seen UFOs since I was a kid. And by the way, here's my evidence of, and it's a balloon up in the sky, or it's an insect passing the camera. And you're like, geez, I don't know. But unfortunately, over the years, I've become a bit of a pariah in the New Age UFO movement, because I spent a lot of time, and like I said before, I've purchased a lot of cameras over the years trying to learn about photography and that. And I became a bit of a pariah in the New Age field, because a lot of people will photograph pieces of dust or moisture or pollen or stuff like that in the air and say that it's a, because it looks weird or it's doing weird, or they'll see a face in it or something like that. And a lot of pareidolia, and they'll say that it's a ghost or it's a UFO or something like that. The only balls of light I'm interested in are the balls of light that are physically seen with the naked eye before you take the photograph. So a lot of people snap, and then in 2 of the 5 photographs, they'll get something that looks strange, like a little ball or whatever, and it turns out it's a piece of moisture or whatever. The flash is reflecting. And so I went and spent a good 2 years probably outside, purposely photographing insects of all different types, purposely photographing balloons, birds, doing experiments with all this stuff as well, and trying to and show what looked like what behind the camera, because I noticed a proliferation in the New Age UFO field of people, like I said, with photographing balloons, photographing birds, insects, you name it, and they all look can look unusual behind the camera, especially if the insect's close to the camera, or the sunlight's reflecting off the back of the bird as it's, you know, going at a certain angle. They can look really unusual. So you got to work out the times of day, the angle of the sun, what you're looking at. Eventually, you know what you're looking at. You know if it's an insect. You know if it's a bird. You know if it's something benign. And you know 100% whether it's something anomalous. And these UAP that we see in our skies, I mean, anomalous is not the word for them. I mean, they do things that, I mean, if a human pilot was strapped into one of these eggs or balls of light, you know, or if it was a plane doing the same G speed, basically your stomach, being a pilot, in the G-force, you can't really deal with that as humans. The change of direction and the 90-degree direction changes at 3,000 miles an hour, you know, your stomach would come out your mouth and you'd be dead instantly. But these things can do it just like that. And I mean, it goes against, in a way, our known physics and what we know is possible for now. But our physics is not 100%. There's something that Einstein was missing out on. And so I think eventually they'll find, yep, multi-dimensions exist. That's a human name for something we don't understand, right? But I do believe they exist. I believe they're around there, and I believe that different type of phenomenon are coming from this place. But I believe they're also walking around us. Alternatively, we can't see them. If you're aware of the work of Trevor James Constable, he used to go out and whenever he'd pick up some interesting Geiger counter readings, you know, some radiation he'd start filming with infrared filters and cameras and stuff like that, and he'd capture these beings or these creatures you couldn't see, like blobs, strange blobs you couldn't see with the human eye, but here they are on infrared showing up. So I've looked a lot into the infrared side of footage over the years, the full spectrum side of everything, and you know, something like 60 something cameras I've had, and just tried to find out as much as I can, you know, and I got hated for it, and that's fine. Hate me. If someone hates you, you know, you're on the right track for doing something right. Okay, so I don't really care. As far as I know, you know, what damages the field more is people in in Facebook groups and all that posting up pictures of birds and insects and claiming they're UFOs. That when the skeptics come along and the skeptics say, no, it's this, and they can prove that it's this, that's just another nail in the coffin of ufology for humans and you know, basic the general population, okay, the ones that think maybe UFOs might be a bit crazy or the whole topic might be a bit insane. This is another nail in the coffin for them. As soon as they find out that another fake video, another fake story, another this or that, you know. So I've been fighting against that. I'm all about evidence. I'm all about witnesses as well, and getting as good as evidence out there as possible. Now, a lot of people say that photographs and videos aren't evidence of aliens, and I agree, they're not. They are evidence, though, of something anomalous happening in our skies. That's all they're evidence of, is evidence of. I've never said they're aliens. I've never said they're extraterrestrial. I've never said anything like that because I don't know. So how can I say that 100%? So, but all I do know is that it's stranger than what we think. It's stranger than what we can perceive, this phenomenon. It is really, really out there. The more you look into it, the more you see that too. And if you're honest with yourself, you'll admit that to yourself, and you'll admit that to others, that you don't know what it is yet. And I'll probably die not knowing what it is 100%, but at least I've got some evidence. At least I can have some hypotheses on what this phenomenon might be and what it might be about. But at the end of the day, you can't really know much more than that, unfortunately. It's one of those topics. So if you wanted to play another video and I can go through that video, up to you.
Okay, I will take a peek. Let's just try this one here. That one's not very good. Too loud. No. I know.
You can try turning your volume down a little bit. That'll assist you, Paul.
Yeah. What's happening here, Dom, is that for some reason, Zoom is not showing me the video. And so I'm having to go in a backdoor way to show it. So let me try this one and see if this works.
Oh, yeah.
I have to say that's loud.
That is not I'm sorry. That's too loud. I can't hear anything. Let me try another one here.
Or just have Damien wait and talk till after the video.
Yeah, I can do that.
And we'll talk about it later.
Oh, yeah, this is a good one.
All right, here we go.
So this is some of the videos we have of these. This is an orange ball. This actually gave off, we caught this with multiple cameras, and it came over our yard, stopped, did a U-turn, and then went straight back to wherever it came from, across the street, and then we lost it. But with a lot of the captures that we get, they seem to have some sort of field around the actual object itself. I.e., this one here is orange, an orange ball, but around it is a greenish kind of glow. And that's happened on multiple different cameras that I've captured these things on, and multiple different balls of light. And there's a thought and a theory that a lot of what they're doing is they're actually affecting the magnetic field around them, because they're projecting like a field that's protecting them. So I was putting them inside it like a bubble. And what's happening is the radiation, or the ionizing radiation, is interacting with the oxygen and ionizing and causing a glow around the peripheral of the craft, or the light. Well, that's a theory anyway. So this one was one that we saw 3 balls of light appear right where we're looking, Mel and I, outside the window. And all 3 of them just disappeared at once. They were huge and much closer than that one you just see on the screen there. And then as it disappeared, I caught them going out, and I got my camera, and then all of a sudden, boom, big one came on again. And it was red and it was white, and it was just really beautiful. It's quite large. The videos never ever do them justice, because what you're seeing with the eye, it's just there, but in the video it looks so far away and so small. But yeah, it was quite incredible, and it was just hovering above a tire place, that thing. So yeah. So yeah, there's more videos of these strange balls where they seem to be connected together. So sometimes you get 2 balls connected, 3 balls connected, 4 balls connected. I've caught them out here as well. I've captured them here. This is another brilliant one, this orange one that was up in the sky, and it was about 2 a.m. in the morning, just hanging there, just above a tree. And the shape and everything, it seemed to be changing shape and doing all sorts of stuff. So 1 minute it have like a structure to it, and next second it'd be undefined. It was really bizarre. A lot of them tend to do that. This one as well was taken from video too. Here's another one of these yellowy orange balls of light, which seem to give off this green mist around them as well. They seem to interact with the oxygen of the environment around them. Now, some of these balls as well, especially the larger ones, I have them on video actually expelling smaller balls of light out of them, especially the white balls. Not so much with any of the other colors, but the white balls I've captured expelling lights, smaller white lights, and also I have on video a large white mass cruising through the sky with smaller balls of light flying into it as it was. And some of these balls of light would appear just near it as if they were appearing out of nowhere and then fly into this bigger ball of light. Really, really weird. It almost seems as though they're alive sometimes. It's really strange. Now, this one appeared at a CE5 event, and I went off by myself away from the main group and to an area where they weren't. And sure enough, this massive red light just appears in the sky just above this plane. Airplane here that's traveling just under it. And I mean, you can see the size of the light compared to, you know, a 737. It's quite big. It's big, huge red light, massive. So yeah, a lot of them, what I see mostly are white lights, and then you've got your orange, reds, greens, blues, purples, that kind of thing. Yellow is probably about the 3rd or 4th. Yeah, a lot of these were when I'd have people around as well, and I'd say, look, come outside now. And we'd look up and there'd be something there, and they'd be, how did you know? And I don't know. I don't know how I knew, but it's happened time and time again like that, to the point where you think, and if I had an ego, I'd be like, oh, wow, I'm special. Like a lot of people in this field do. They think they're hyper special because they see a UFO or something. And no, I think I'm more grounded in my life because I've seen them since I was a child. So they're part of my life more so than something that props my ego up or anything like that. They're just sort of a natural part of my life. And they haven't been a good part of my life either, for most of the time, in the way that they've affected my thoughts on life. They've affected relationships, friendships, jobs, you name it. It's affected. So, yeah, people think you're nuts. That's fair enough. I can handle that. I don't like anyone who's straighty 180 anyway, so I'm a little bit out there when it comes to this topic. I think my thoughts are, I only go from what I perceive them to be and my own experiences with them. But still, I can't tell you 100% what they are. All I know
Damien?
is that.
Damien, I have a question about how you're shooting these. Most people, if they were shooting a camera, it would just be a standard JPEG, and those are prone to distortion or
I'm shooting on RAW
truncation.
format. Yeah,
You're shooting RAW?
I'm shooting on RAW mostly, yeah, RAW and JPEG. And also I'm shooting video capturing the objects as well. So to show that they're not an show that it's not an anomaly or anything like that. So yeah, basically, so I'm capturing the same object on 4 different cameras at the same time, 4 different formats. So night vision monocular, I'll use even during the daytime, thermal, 4K, and full high definition. So all on the one rig, I'll use them all. So, and also a JPEG still camera as well.
So for those that don't know, RAW, there's no truncation or compression of the image. You're getting all of the pixels, and so that would be a better way to capture it, and the 4K
absolutely.
as well.
Yeah, absolutely. But like I said, no matter how clear you have the footage, it doesn't tell you anything more about it. It's just a clearer ball of light, really, at the end of the day. Doesn't really. This is the one I was telling you about, the above the mountain that went straight up in the air that we witnessed. There it is, opening up, revealing a bright orange center. And this is incredible. These type of UFOs are quite rare, with the metallic sphere like that there opening up, as you can see, hovering, spinning, and then there it is. There's the orange sphere inside the metallic shell. Quite incredible.
Damien, what fraction of time do you have to look or shoot the sky before you pick something up? Is this the culmination of 1 minute out of every 100?
It's probably, I have a lot of luck for some reason when I go outside just randomly. So I can just go outside randomly, just accidentally look up, not even really expecting to see anything, just look up randomly and see something. Other times I'll go out 100 times looking up at the sky with the hope of seeing something and see nothing at all. So it's really strange. If I don't worry about it, don't let it bother me or anything, I see more than if I'm thinking about them all the time and worrying about not seeing them or whatever. So they just come when they come. And I've worked out in my life that even if I don't see them for a year or 2 or 6 months or whatever, eventually I'll see them again, you know. And so I'm not worried about that. This one here is actually 211 high-speed sequence shots taken with a Nikon DSLR, I think a 3400, 3200. And so I just kept my finger down on well, I had 2 witnesses next to me who stood there dumbfounded watching this thing cruise over the mountain. And the maneuvers it was making and everything were quite incredible. And they were just blown away, the guys next to me. And unfortunately, that would have made a really, really good video, that one. But I have 211 photographs showing the same thing. You can actually zoom in and look at the photos up close and all that sort of stuff. And each one's about maybe 11, 12 megapixels. So they're decent quality, decent size photographs anyway. So
I want to apologize to our watchers here. What's happening here is that Damien posted these things on a Dropbox, and some of these we only got in the last hour here, and he's not able to control them himself on his phone. So we are trying to kind of grope to find the right video to show. So sorry, it's been a little bit jagged, but I'm doing the best I can. Okay, so do you want to anybody have any questions right now while we're stopped for a second? We do. We've got Clodagh. Why don't I go ahead and let you unmute yourself and you can ask your question.
Okay, thank you, Damien. Really fascinating chat. I have to ask, I notice you're wearing a very heavy black coat and you're in Australia. So I'm wondering if you feel cold a lot.
yeah, we're in the middle of winter at the moment, and it's been pretty cold the last few nights. So
Okay.
yeah. Oh, do I feel cold? I do actually. And I got told that was because of the bone problem that I had. So I do feel cold a lot more than what, I don't know, a regular 42-year-old would, I guess.
Yeah.
It's some sort of side effect or something.
Yeah, I think I had a brief exchange with you on Paula's Patreon platform, and I really felt
Okay, yep.
that your story about the purple light was a very significant encounter for you. I felt that this was a very high vibratory being that was trying to connect with you, and just happened to point out that you had this health problem that needed to be addressed, because I think you're an important team member on the planet right now, and they wanted to get your attention to take care of your health. And this really, your story reminds me of all the stories that I've read, and all the stories of the mystics, the great mystics of our world, the encounters with the divine or the angelic or the light. It's not for the faint of heart. And we do get injured, myself included. I had some kind of an encounter when I was 18 years old. I passed out, and I've had a lifelong journey through chronic health problems. And when we get filled with so much light, it blows out, I think, our endocrine system, our nervous system. Everything has to rearrange itself. And so my heart goes out to you, because it is a challenging path. It's not an easy path, but you are assisted every step of the way. Just keep asking for help and you'll be assisted. And I'm sorry that you've expressed similar dynamics that I've experienced in my own life, where family and friends, they don't understand what you're going through and they reject you. And it's a tough path. So my heart goes out to you. Keep doing the work. Keep going. Thank you.
That's lovely of you to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, Nancy, would you like to unmute yourself?
Okay, there we go. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, hi, Damien. So I was wondering about a few things, and thank you, Clodagh, for your input. That was valid. So it keeps striking me, you know, we try to lump this together in a way and say it's all ET, it's all UFOs. But as I listen to this talk, I'm really impressed that, you know, it's probably not something that we can lump all together, but more that this is consciousness, and that these balls of light are consciousness. And, you know, I can't say that I know what their tasks are, but that I feel that they're consciousness. And so my question is, the last, you know, year or so that we've been going through all of this COVID business, Damien, have you noticed yourself increased, you know, balls of light that you've seen around you, around where you are?
Yeah, there has been and there hasn't been. Like for instance, they do, like I said, they do come, you know, you might not see them for a couple of months or a few months or whatever, but then you'll see them for 2-3 days in a row, then maybe the following week, then you might not see them again. But to be honest, I think probably for the past maybe at least 4 months, I've hardly seen anything, you know what I mean? So it's sort of up and down. I have had, when it first started COVID and everyone was at home and everything, I was seeing quite a fair bit, but I don't know whether it was because I was still seeing them from before, whether it had nothing to do with COVID or not. I have no idea. But a lot of people seem to think that And I do get asked that question a lot. Why is there a lot of UFOs that have been seen and reported at the moment? Because there's been more reports of UFOs around the world in the last 2 years than what there has been many, many years before. So people are asking, wondering why is it going up during COVID time? Now, as I mentioned before, UFOs could be a couple of different reasons. One, the UFOs themselves have been known to visit or to observe or watch areas of human tragedy and human suffering over the years. In wartime, they seem to be attracted to watch this, to see what's going on. Even during the Black Plague, there was like a lot of reports going around of balls of light being seen and strange little things, which we would nowadays call UFO topics or ghosts or whatever. But the other thing it could be too is a lot of people are at home now more than what they used to be. So of course, you're going to be getting people watching Netflix more, or watching documentaries that they didn't have the time to watch before because of work or whatever the case is. So, you know, so there may be a combination of different things, the reason why a lot of people are seeing more. But for me, it's just the same pretty much. It's just on and off my whole life sort of thing. So I haven't noticed any like major differences myself, but other people have, and other people have told me personally. But when I first came up here, I mean, I was seeing them. I had a good 3 months straight where I was seeing them at least 1 day a week, and then that sort of dropped off and then picked up again and dropped off. So now it's in the drop off phase. So hopefully in the next couple of weeks or so, I'll be getting some more action. But yeah, if I do, I'll put it up on the YouTube channel. So
that's fair enough. Yeah, and I was really glad to see the video that you put where the balls of light you mentioned had like there were maybe two, or they had split apart that you saw. I'm in Colorado, and on the north part of the Front Range, I saw something like that in the middle of the night, and I never really knew what that was, except that it was, you know, very, you know, made me have a lot of questions, because had you seen any of the balls that stayed within a certain parameter and just play there for, you know, 15, 30 minutes?
Yeah, they play a game like they're playing a game of tag with each other in the sky.
You've seen
chasing
that?
each other around. Oh yeah, a couple of times. Well, one of my second sighting ever was that same thing where they were playing a game of tag across the sky. For 15, 20 minutes, you know, and across one bit of the sky, but they go major distances, then just stop at the blink of a hat, no forward inertia whatsoever, and then just do a 90-degree left-hand turn. And this was happening constantly. And I could tell that they're intelligent as well, because one would cut the other one off. So the red one would go up this angle to go this way, then do an L shape, whereas the other one would try and cut it off before, so to cut the angle off. So yeah, whatever they were, knew what they were doing. It was almost like a bunch of kids playing in the playground almost. So yeah, it was pretty weird. I do get a lot of reports like that too, of these balls of light mucking around and doing all these different things. So yeah, no, it's an interesting sighting that you had. Yeah.
And did you ever see where there was one that was pretty dominant, maybe a little bit of a second one, but one pretty dominant, and then suddenly about 5 little lights would just come off of it?
Yeah, I've seen main ones. I've seen lights flying out of the bigger lights. I've seen them flying into the bigger balls of light as well. So it's not just a one-way thing. They don't just exit; they also enter these bigger balls of light too, which is really strange, which gives me the impression it's almost like they're birthing in our skies or giving birth to creatures almost. It's almost like they're alive when you see them sometimes. And we see the way that they swim through the sky as well. It's almost like if you put a piece of ice on a hot tray and you turn it, the ice will, you know, until it gets to the bottom sort of thing. Well, these things, they kind of swim in a very similar way, almost like they're, you know, like life forms up in our upper atmosphere. Now, we know hardly anything about our upper atmosphere. We know more about our oceans than our upper atmosphere. And the thing is, we know hardly anything about our oceans either, about the bottoms of our oceans, because we've only explored a very tiny percentage. But our upper atmosphere, no one really knows what's living up there, the type of life forms that could be up there. In space, I believe there's life forms all around us, different types, different energies, different, you name it, but they're around, and some of them aren't visible to the human eye. Some of them are only visible in the full spectrum, some of them in the infrared spectrum. It's a bit of a touch and go. That the phenomenon's all over the shop, but you do find little characteristics that join them. So it's quite fascinating. It really is.
Thank you.
Damien, you mentioned that you used an IR camera to see some of these craft. Does that indicate that the craft are warmer than the atmosphere around them or colder than the atmosphere around them?
They do seem to be warmer. They seem to be giving off a heat. And who knows what type of heat, whatever the case is. But there was one important one in regards to what you're talking about. I think it was about 4 or 5 years ago now. I was finishing off I just done a 4-hour presentation up at a conference up in the Gold Coast, a paranormal conference. And I came outside onto the balcony, and there was a documentary crew from Canada, some friends of mine, Rob Freeman and Mark McNabb and the team. And they had a $70,000 thermal camera on a rig with multiple cameras like I do, set up, all side by side. And so they've asked me, do you want to look through the thermal camera after they interviewed me for this documentary? And I said, yeah, I'd love to, because I'd never seen through a thermal camera that expensive before. So I was like, yeah, definitely. $72,000 for a military grade, sort of super huge. Oh, it was mental. Anyway, so I'm looking through it, and then right on the other side, the second I look through it, is a old school flying saucer. And these are so rare that they're just not even heard about anymore. But this thing had a flat bottom, had rounded sides on it, perfectly rounded. It was all symmetrical, but instead of having, like you see in the movies, like a massive bump on the top or a little bump on the bottom, this thing was flat on the bottom and had the tiniest little bump in the middle at the top. So it had really long, elongated edges to it. So it was different than what you'd normal flying, but it was the closest thing to a flying saucer that if someone saw it, they'd say that's a flying saucer. But this thing was huge, and it was that low. We were 7 stories up. It was that low. It actually had buildings behind it, so you could see the high-rise buildings behind it as it then starts moving. And so Rob, I've said, you got to film this. This is incredible. He starts to film it. He looks at it. He sees it. He follows the object as it goes between 2 buildings and then out to the ocean, and that was it. And part of the funny thing in the high strangeness thing of the subject, which is what I was going into a little bit before, was the fact that they can tamper with or mess with electrical equipment, memory cards, that kind of thing. And whether that's an accidental side effect of the energy that their craft gives off, who knows, or whether it's something they're doing on purpose so that you don't film them, which is another really weird thing in itself as well. If they're doing it on purpose, it shows yet another deeper level of intelligence as well. And it makes you wonder why. Because I've had some incredible sightings with people standing next to me, and both of our cameras wouldn't turn on, even though we charged multiple batteries during that day for that particular skywatch that night. And then we'd get there, and one battery after another would go from full battery power to 0 in a matter of about a second and a half. One battery after another, while this huge thing, it was like a Ferris wheel with lights around the perimeter of it, just went silently over the top of us at nighttime, but it was just crystal clear, eerie, no noise, just this huge thing. And this happened time and time again. So these guys, when they filmed it, they thought they had the best footage of a UFO on a thermal camera ever. And I thought that too. I thought, oh my God, this is incredible. I'm really excited. Anyway, so they've come back down to my hotel room, about an hour later, and they looked dejected and, sort of a bit pissed off at the door. And I was like, oh, what's going on? You're not going to believe this. And they've sat down and shown me the computer. And it turned out that the camera itself, the video that was captured of this UFO, it didn't record the video part of it. It only recorded the audio part of the video. So you can just see a black screen with some electrical interference running through it with our voices talking about this incredible UFO we're witnessing. And nothing. So it affected the camera equipment on a $72,000 camera, and it's never done that before that date, and it's never done it since. So they've never had a problem before or since that one UFO. So I mean, coincidence or not, this whole field is full of strange serendipities and the strangest coincidences, and it's fun really, but it does your head in if you're not a little bit already out there. So it helps to be out there a little bit. Yeah.
If you're looking at something miles away, you would think there'd be other people that might be seeing some of the same stuff. Is it possible that instead of them scrambling what you're looking at, is it something that might be a property of what you're shooting, and that anybody looking at any camera from any direction, anywhere, would also not capture it, not because they're directing that interference at you, but because there's something that is outside of third dimension or something else?
So you're saying that they might not be able to capture it because of something that's affecting their equipment outside of our dimension?
Yeah, well, I'm saying it's not, maybe it's not that they're directing some interference at you or your equipment, but it's something different from what we're accustomed to in our third dimensional reality. And so nobody could get a shot of it. It's not necessarily that they're aware of you directly, but that they wouldn't be picked up by anybody.
Well, that's a very good point. And yeah, I've never heard that question before. So no, that's a very good question. Yeah, you're possibly right. I absolutely have no idea whether or not, but would be a good experiment to undertake. But I mean, the logistics of it would be near impossible, getting someone over here with a camera and hoping a UFO shows up and hoping that you can film it at the same time to work out whether it affected their equipment as well. But I've had one person on one side of a valley, cameras getting affected at the same time, me, and I was on the other side of the valley. My camera got affected. I was about 200 meters away from them at the time, while a UFO is going over the top of us. Now, coincidence or not, again, I believe that it could possibly be, maybe they don't see us, but a lot of the times that I do capture them and film them, I'll look up at the sky at a certain part of the sky, and I could look anywhere in the entire sky, but I'll look at one spot in the sky, and that one spot, a UFO will appear right where I'm looking. And this has happened. I've lost count how many times that has happened, where they've appeared right where I was looking. Or I've brought someone out with me and I've said, look up here. And then they've looked up and then a UFO's appeared right where I'm pointing. And it's really, I can't explain that. It's also on my videos as well. Like sometimes when they disappear and reappear, just before they reappear, I can see them somehow before others around me. And you can actually hear me on video saying it's coming back, it's coming back, it's back. And then 5 seconds later, it comes back. And I can't work that out unless there's some sort of, again, an electrical problem with the cameras or the dating on them, or I really don't know. It's a crazy thing. But if it has something to do with the effects that the craft are giving off themselves, that would make sense. If it's affecting electrical equipment, I mean, they used to affect cars. You know, the old stories about the Portage police chase, how they chase UFOs through different states in the US and all that, and it affected their cars. When the UFO would go over the top of them, it would turn their engines off. And so we're having sort of similar stuff today, but with newer technology that they're affecting. So quite possibility that whatever is powering them or wherever they're coming from does affect electrical equipment. And yeah, I can't give a definite either way, unfortunately. I'd like to think that they're doing it on purpose, but then again, if they are, like I wouldn't be too happy with them because they've cost me some really good footage if they're doing this on purpose, you know. But at the same time, hey, it's a hit and a miss with this whole topic. So,
okay, seeing no more hands, how about if we go ahead and have one last segment where you can come to your conclusions if you like, and then we'll have a wide open Q&A or discussion as we want. Does that work for you?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, so take 10 or 15 minutes to make your final things that you just don't want to miss sharing with us.
Too easy. Okay. stretch. Yeah, so basically, a lot of what I've captured over the years, I've been able to debunk my own footage, debunk my own captures, and that's why I spent so many hours outside trying to debunk myself and to debunk, insects and birds in photos and stuff like that. There was a method to my madness, and it was trying to, bring a little bit of clarity to the UFO field with a little bit of knowledge that I'd garnered through actual being out there and, in the field and photographing the sky and doing that sort of stuff and photographing insects and birds and stuff like that. But I think it's really important that people know that so they can then move on and then know what they're seeing, know what's what. But it takes a lot of time, a lot of perseverance, a lot of hours, a lot of money spending on cameras, because things look different under different models and makes of cameras. So you're talking megapixels, and you're talking all the ISO, and you're talking different price ranges and stuff like that. So yeah, I've tried to get from the cheapest Kmart cameras all the way through to some couple $1,000 cameras or whatever, and I'm still working my way up. But like I said, even if you had the world's best cameras, it's only going to capture a slightly clearer light. It's not going to do anything more than that or tell you anything more than that. It's but at the same time, it's evidence, right? And if you're just say you're a videographer, or you're out in the street and you see someone murder somebody and you've got it on film and you're filming it, that's enough to put that person in jail for life. But unfortunately, in the UFO field, it doesn't really mean much. It's not proof of anything per se. It's just proof of something anomalous that's happening in our skies around us. That's all it is. As far as aliens go, ETs go, I think the phenomena is a lot stranger than that. I think that has happened though. I do believe like cases like Lonnie Zamora, and other cases where they've seen beings on the ground and they're getting scoops out of the ground and all that sort of stuff. So there's possibly beings, or what we call aliens, from other planets. They're probably quite similar to us. Extracting things, taking off back to their planet, that sort of thing. But we don't know 100%. I think that a small fraction, a small percentage of those cases are pretty much that. They're beings from other planets. But I think the higher percentage of what's going on here, and I call it a paranatural enigma because I believe it's natural. I don't believe that it's paranormal. It's that kind of thing. These are all just human words for things we have no idea about. But at the same time, I think it's natural. I think in the future, we're going to know that it's actually a lot more natural than what we had previously thought and previously suspected it was. So, and it's just all around us, and we can't deny it. It's there, and one day in the future, we'll see that. We'll see what it actually is. We may not, we may not know. These things may still be quiet and keeping to themselves, but all I know is that it is a very important topic. I'm not just talking about ETs or finding out we're not alone. I mean, philosophers have been asking this question for thousands and thousands of years. About life, about why we're here, about all these questions. And I do believe that if the ETs are real, or the beings from other planets that are real, that would be our closest chance to finding out where we come from, who we are, what we are as a species, why we have amnesia as a species, all the questions that even as kids, we ask ourselves sometimes, these little questions about life. And I'm sure all of us have, certain questions that we can, that we've always asked during our life. I think it's one of the most important things, is where do we come from? Who are we? What are we? What's our past? Why are we here? There's so many of these incredible questions not even the best philosopher can answer, because we don't have the answers. And to me, this is the closest thing that we can get to possibly having the type of answer that we've been looking for as a human race for thousands of years, tens of thousands of years. think it's the closest we can come. So yeah, it's very strange topic, very beautiful topic too. Just got to try not to anger the UFOs or anything, because yeah, they're pretty they do their own thing. So
wonderful conclusion. Let's go ahead and open this up to anybody that would like to just open and have a dialogue with you. Go ahead and just unmute yourself and have a few comments here with Damien. Earl's got his hand up if you'd like to unmute yourself.
Thank you. I'm speaking for Earl. He has 3 people here. I would like you to repeat what you said at the beginning of your speech about your osteoporosis or whatever it is that has happened to your bones. We did not have a good speaker, and we do now, and we'd like to hear you repeat that little bit about your bones and your own health.
At first they thought it was osteoporosis, which in itself is hyper rare for a male in his late 30s, early 40s. It's extraordinarily rare. But the more we looked into it, the more they actually, because they thought I had other problems as well, like celiac disease, and I had my whole system went out of whack after this thing. And I was throwing up. I was sick as a dog. I'd lost a lot of weight. I was sore all the time, a whole bunch of things. I'd sit down and I'd be sore. That whole weird stuff. But after a while, we worked out that this, whatever it was mimicking osteoporosis. Now, the closest thing that has all of the symptoms and all of the characteristics of what I have is hypophosphatemic osteomalacia, which is a hyper rare bone disease, much rarer than osteoporosis in someone my age. I got told by the doctor, the specialist who saw me, he's like, even with osteoporosis, he said that it's so rare that he could go outside his office in North Sydney, which is on Military Road, which is one of the, in Neutral Bay, sorry, which is one of the busiest areas of Sydney, and just stand there all day asking people who come past, do you have osteoporosis and what age are you, that kind of thing. He said that he could be out there for an entire week and not find one person my age who's a man who has osteoporosis. And that's just the osteoporosis side of it. Now, hypophosphatemic osteomalacia is a lot rarer. It's extremely rare. I mean, they were finding it in certain individuals who would be exposed to a certain degree of radiation, who were a certain distance away from the bombs, Nagasaki and Hiroshima, the atomic weapons. So little bits of exposure over the time. Now, one of the specialists said to Mel and I that this could be an old injury. So i.e. you may have had the bone disease a lot longer than what you thought, and just multiple exposures over a lifetime to small doses of radiation have built up in your system, and then that's why you're having all these issues now. And that was just the purple thing that I saw was just the icing on the cake for all that, for it to come to a crescendo, to a head. Now, if I hadn't have found out about the whole I was sick and all that sort of stuff, if I hadn't have found out that that hadn't happened to me, I wouldn't have found out that I had a 25 centimeter tumor, precancerous tumor in my stomach, which they had to cut out, which they found accidentally while doing the gastroenterologist found it. And so I had to cut that out. So I could have possibly be dead right now from cancer of the stomach if they hadn't found this in my stomach. So in a way, I'm lucky, I'm happy that it went down the way it did. But at the same time, I'm kind of I still want to know answers, like that's just the way my brain works, unfortunately. Yeah. So I still
Thank you very much.
Yeah. No, you're welcome.
Okay, not seeing any other hands, I will ask.
Damien, I'm glad you said that, because what we were left with was that you were horribly injured. And I'm thinking of the Travis Walton case where he was, that beam of light came down right on top of him when he was under the craft. And then he said he was taken aboard and they put a crystal thing on him to bring him back to life. But you said you had a tumor that you would have never found. And
wouldn't have
we
known
have to
anything
make
about it.
that
Yeah.
clear because the people that were listening here didn't understand that. Clodagh did, because you did an interview for me talking about that tumor. Now, how big was that tumor that was found because of
I
this?
think it was 25 centimeters to 26 centimeters. So it was pretty large. It's quite large.
So you found that tumor as a
I didn't.
result of
Oh
this
yeah, the
accident.
specialist found it. Yeah, as a direct result.
Well,
So
that
I'm trying to
makes
work
a
out
heck
whether
of
I
a
had.
difference in your story. And you're gonna need to clarify that, because everybody's looking at it as a horrible, horrible thing. And if going to the doctor to find that tumor and then being,
Well, I wouldn't have found out about it otherwise. So I mean,
well, that's what I'm saying.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
because people here, especially the earlier ones, didn't know this, and they were left with, you were injured. And
Yeah.
and
Well, I
it
was injured,
horrible and
but
everything. They
I
didn't
was
know.
injured, but yeah.
You had
It
a
was
tumor in your
probably
stomach that you would have
it was
never
probably a
found.
good thing I was injured though. Yeah, because otherwise, yeah, I wouldn't have found out about it. So
For the Americans here, that's 10 inches.
you gotta add it up, you know. 10
10
inches.
10
Yeah.
inches. It's 10 inches. He had a tumor of
big.
10 inches. Well, you know, we got to look at all of it, because in Travis Walton's case, he's convinced that, well, he was in the wrong place at the wrong time.
So they killed him, yeah.
Yeah, well, I think they actually killed him, but then he was taken aboard, and he had this crystal thing on his chest that he threw off. But it doesn't mean I think that ETs are good or bad. It's just an incident. It's not even ET. I love what Nancy said. She used the word consciousness. It's a consciousness. Whatever that thing is, whatever a consciousness it is, maybe we shouldn't be putting shapes to it or personalities to it or whatever we tend to do to explain it. That consciousness helped you out in that particular time. And that consciousness, Damien, lets you film, lets you film when other people can't film. You know, that really, I know Rob Freeman. I know those guys. I've lived through that $1 million setup. He's got $1 million setup.
I know.
I know. I've been to Peru with him with that $1 million setup, and he can't photograph UFOs, and he's frustrated to death because that setup is incredible. And you just go out of your house.
I have a bit of luck, yeah.
Well, you can call it luck, or it's an intentional thing that you can't figure out. It's an intentional, it's not luck. Come on. He's got $1 million setup. He's been all over the world. You're standing right next to him. He can't film it, but you film. That there's an intention. There's an intention behind that. So may I suggest you look at the intention and don't put any label on it. It's just an intention. But I've seen that setup. I've seen that setup.
Okay, Rob, you've got your hand up. If you'd like to go ahead and unmute.
Yes, thank you, Damien. So personally, I believe nothing is happening on this world to us for no reason. There's reason for everything. So our current world, I think so, it's going through some suffering, through some trials and tribulations. Yes, there are some tragedies, unfortunate. It's our learning lessons and our evolution, really. We are growing exponentially as a species. So we are evolving in consciousness. So whatever is happening to you, Damien, there must be a reason. There is a message. There is some kind of awareness that's happening that we as a human beings maybe do not understand yet. It's not in our current vocabulary or current language. So, I mean, would you kind of have a feeling in your heart by any chance, like, what this could be, what the message could be, or maybe any of your colleagues or friends in your circles, in immediate circles, have similar perspective that can be corroborated, or what's this really means, and what kind of message do you have for humanity, for us?
What type of a message I have for humanity? Wake up. Wake up. It's not all about you. You know, you've been given a beautiful planet to live on, and basically, like ants, you're destroying it. Not you guys personally, sorry, but yeah, I think that if they were to say anything, I mean, from what I believe I know about them, they're not too happy with what's happening here on this earth, but there is limited amount of things that they can do to interfere. And I think that every planet, you know, if it is like this, and this is, we're not the only ones out in the universe, I believe that there are certain rules that you have to follow, and one of them is to the population of the planet to, i.e., grow up themselves, to become spiritually advanced themselves, to become, and possibly if they don't or haven't, I mean, they could always show themselves in the skies and change another, you know, because what I've noticed is with UFO sightings especially, the more sightings you have, and when people have sightings themselves, tends to throw their entire brain into just random mode. Like everything is just up in the air. It changes their whole idea of the world around them, everything. And also everything becomes different, more important, and more beautiful, dark. I mean, it does scare a lot of people, this phenomenon, and the possibility that, you know, because we don't know what it is, right? And as humans, we need to label things. We need to know what it is to feel comfortable. And that's with everything. It's not just with UFOs or anything like that. That's with everything. We need our labels. But our labels are just human terms for something we really have no idea about. We know nothing about. Little things about it. Yeah, that's about it. But at the end of the day, the ultimate reality is that we as humans, we need to wake up, that there is something going on around us that can't be explained by 99% of the population here on Earth, if not most people, can't explain this, why it's happening, and the function behind it. There seems to be a bigger gameplay here, if you will. And people really need to stop ridiculing others who've seen the phenomenon and get out there themselves and spend some hours outside looking up at the sky yourself, and pull your finger out as well, you know, and admit when you're wrong. You know, a lot of most humans can't admit when they're wrong. It's an ego thing, right? So what you need to do is get past that. We're not going to raise consciousness. We're going to do anything like that if we continue just killing each other and raping, murdering, and, you know, stealing from each other and all that crap we do, you know. And these guys aren't going to come down and go, okay, we see what you do all the time to each other, and we're going to land on the White House lawn in front of you. And more than likely, if they get out on the White House lawn, we'll pelt them to death with a baseball bat, because that's what we're like. We're humans. Anything that's different to us, we push aside, even races that look different to us, but they're our own species of humans. But so imagine how we're going to be like to little mini creatures that freak us out and stuff of our nightmares. Imagine what we're going to be like towards them. You know, it's just like, yeah, you'll never see them again if they land here. They're not stupid. Now, the thing is, they'd know, especially any advanced, hyper advanced civilization, anybody watching us even from the moon would say that, hey, these guys are a violent backwards race. You know, they're still doing stuff they were doing thousands of years ago to each other. Yeah, I don't particularly want to go down and land and give them all this information about all this nuclear or special energy that they can have. They're not even ready for it yet. We need to get ready for all that stuff, even if that was going to happen, you know. So, I mean, a lot of people are just expecting it, expecting the aliens to be good, expecting the aliens to do this for them, expecting the aliens to do that. No, it's not going to happen. You need to pull your own thumb out if you want anything to go on. So, no, and I think that this is a topic especially that'll bring people together, especially when people know that it's a real phenomenon and they see it with their own eyes. It's something that brings people together. It's been something that separated people for years, but because the internet and because of knowledge about the subject and interest in the subject as well, now people in society feel more open to be able to talk about it, and that's brilliant. That's exactly what we want. Nothing came from the Pentagon UFO release, but what did come from it? It got people talking all around the world, and people open to the possibility of aliens or UFOs existing and being real. And that's a great thing. That's all we can ask for. The more people that talk about it, the more stigma that's taken away from the subject. So, and that's what needs to happen for this subject. Eventually, it gets to a point where it's just accepted as common knowledge, but that's not going to be for a while yet. Like I say to everybody, you have to see it to believe it, as the old saying goes. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Damien, very, very much. There, you are so true, right on the mark. Yes, bringing people together, communities, being in part of a communities, and this is what they want us apart now. So we have to be together as a community, as a people, work on raising our frequency. That's the key. It's our only job on this planet right now, right here, is to raise our frequency, our consciousness, basically. So once we raise our frequency, we not only help ourselves, but we help everybody that is around us to basically radiate that frequency, that higher consciousness. So this is, we have, yes, so maybe this is wake up. And kind of, yes, we have to do our work. Nothing comes for free. Nothing comes on a silver platter. We have to do our work, everybody. And so that's what's so important, that we have to raise our frequency. That's the only job we have.
Thanks, Ross, and thank you, Damien. Nancy's had her hand up for quite a while. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was wondering, Damien, did you ever stop and use your own awareness to try to reach out and ask them to help you to feel better, to heal a bit, so that you can further your work, with them? Wondering about that.
Yeah, actually, good question. I have actually asked a couple of times, but they don't seem to want to listen to me. So, yeah.
What's that?
Either they don't like me, or or they're playing games with me. I don't know, but yeah, they don't talk to me, and they don't seem to want to help. But at the same time, I mean, if you put it out there, I guess eventually, and some good comes to your situation, you could blame the aliens or extraterrestrials and say they helped me. But I don't know. I think life is just up and down anyway, and I'm not too worried. I mean, I don't really need their help with anything. As far as I know, with the illness thing and all that sort of stuff, I'm just going to keep on taking the tablets I got to take, and whatever happens, happens. So,
well, I guess the reason why I asked is because I had my own, I had a major whiplash injury in 2010, and I've had to work through stuff, and it's been a long process to find better health. And I started asking them. Yeah, I started asking, to have a healing, and didn't get any kind of response, no response, except that the lessons I was learning through the injury. And but just recently I started having some things happen, and I'm starting to think now that there might be some help, maybe, because I think I'm getting, I don't want to say more towards the end of my lessons through this injury, but I've accumulated a lot of learning, and perhaps, I've had some things happen at nighttime that make me suspect that there could be some help from individuals. So I'm sorry, I kind of missed what you said. Did you say that you have asked for help, but that you haven't gotten an answer? Is that what you said?
Yeah, I have asked a couple of times.
Okay.
I mean, a friend of mine, Mariana Flynn, she was the president of UFO Research New South Wales. She's passed away now, but she always used to tell me, ask them for help and ask them for help. So every now and then I would, just to see if they'd help, but yeah, they don't.
Sometimes it's part of the agreement that you may have with them. I mean, if we're all consciousness,
doesn't include healing. Sorry.
Yeah, who knows? But if we're all this consciousness, then most likely, cerebrally, it's going to be hard to really understand that because it's so complex. But, your consciousness, their consciousness, and there's this sort of agreement, I guess you could say, to do this dance. So yeah, I was curious.
Yeah, a lot of people believe that we're here for a reason. We sign our what we're going to do in this life. Yeah.
Kind of,
kind of sounds like, yeah, I mean that sounds great, but you have to ask yourself, like, would an African child sign his way onto Earth so that he can get his eyes eaten out when he's less than a year old by flies? So that he can starve? What lesson are you going to learn in that kind of thing? That's the only thing when it comes to this. I think, yeah, that would work out for people who are rich or well off and stuff like that, or maybe not even that. Maybe people who feel like they have some sort of mission in life or some sort of goal or whatever the case is, or the UFOs are here to help them or whatever the case is. I've seen that a lot. In regards to this phenomenon, I've seen a lot of people who will see a UFO and then add 5 and 5 and get 20, and then all of a sudden they're super special and they're some kind of like special being, that UFOs are here for them, the UFOs are here to help them and all this sort of stuff. And I just think I don't believe that. I believe that myself anyway, that they're here to help me, except for sometimes capture them on camera or film. As far as help goes, I haven't had much help from him in my life. They've just brought a lot of drama into my life. I could have gone about my life not wanting anything to do with them and still have a bunch of friends and still have half my family and that kind of stuff. But I'm about the truth at the end of the day, and I don't care what the truth costs me, because I think the truth's more important than anything you could have or lose in life. And the truth, as they say, will always come out in the end. And I don't care who's hiding this subject and keeping it a secret. Eventually, it's going to come out. Sorry, guys, but it will come out. You can threaten people all you like. You can hack their computers all you like. You can do whatever you want to us. But yeah, it's going to be a movement by the people, for the people. And unfortunately, governments, most people have lost their faith in you. So we're not going to believe anything you say in regards to, the UFO phenomenon, in regards to your trickster element that they put into it. Everything can be dismissed away under further investigation. Now that's a kick in the face for everyone who's been waiting the past several months for this information to come out. So I don't have any faith in them. So yeah, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. Other people around the world like me who are capturing things are going to keep capturing them. And the governments and other idiots out there aren't going to stop us. So, do your best. I've been here 10 years. They've chucked everything at me already. So everything but the kitchen sink. So I'm still here.
Yeah.
I'm still
and
do what I'm doing.
I'm starting to feel more and more these days that it's actually becoming easier to say the word, ET with a straight face and not shy away. Like I've had some friends bring a subject up and I'll say, oh, well, it's ET. And when I say it with my own, what I'm aware of when I say it is like, it's, everyday occurrence. Doesn't everybody know? And maybe we're all moving in that direction. I hope so, that we can find the verbiage, because it's hard to find the right vocabulary so that, you feel serious about it and you don't, shy away, like wither away from it as you're speaking about it.
Yeah, because if you get caught up in the stigma attached to it, that's enough to keep most people's mouths closed for an entire lifetime about the subject. And I know a lot of people who contact me from around the world who tell me about a sighting they had 10, 15, 5 years ago, whatever the case is. And they tell me about this sighting and they'd be, I can't tell anyone else. I can't tell my family, they'd tell me. I can't tell my friends. I can't tell all these people because of the reaction that everyone will have towards me, but I feel I can tell you and all this sort of stuff. So I'm happy. If all I do in the entire world, in my little existence, is help a few people and can respond to a few people and help them out with, hey, you're not alone, and there are other freaks like us out there who are seeing this stuff too on a regular basis, and you know, so you're not alone. And yeah, like I want people to tell me their story, because I didn't have that as a kid. As a kid, I would go up until I was taught by Catholic brothers, and when I'd ask them about it in class, they'd kick me out of the class, and I have to go sit outside the principal's office till the end of the lesson. And that happened so many times. But I was a little smart ass anyway, and I used to always purposely ask about the UFOs as well, and you know, are they God and all this kind of stuff, and they could never have an answer, you know. And I was taught by 300-year-old brothers, you know, they should have an answer to everything. But no, it was just, yeah, the reaction of people was just always spurned me on to really want to stick it to people more, that this is the reality. I don't care if people think I'm telling the truth or not. What this is about for me, and sticking my back out there for people, is so that people in the future can look back on this and not have the same stigma attached to the UFO phenomenon, hopefully, and feel that they can talk about it to Joe Blow or to a stranger, or feel like they can talk about it to their mates or family without the ridicule. And that's what's affected me in my life. And I never had anyone I could talk to about it. And cost me dearly. I don't want that to happen to anyone else, even though most people say I don't care about what happens to other people's lives. But whenever I see someone talking about UFOs and about how it's affected them and how it's messed with their lives, there's a few really good interviews out there on the internet, like Frank Menner interview, where he was being interviewed after seeing a UFO over his property. A big one was seen by the sheriff and dozens of other people as well. But till the day he died, he would get people come onto his property, pegging rocks through his window, putting disgusting letters in his letterbox because he saw UFOs. They'd smash his car windows constantly, to the point where he said that if he ever saw it again, he wouldn't say anything, not because it's not true, but because of the way he was treated by other people, other humans.
Sure. Yeah, that's
And
understandable.
that brings a tear to my eye every time I see guys like that speak up, because I know exactly, I can empathize with them on a different level, because I know what it's like being alone because of this topic, and being seen as the freak or the Satan, they call me as well. So
to be fair now for everybody, I want to move on to other people, and also want to remind people that it is now past lunchtime in tomorrow for Damien is. So let's be respectful of him, and maybe a couple more questions. Nancy's had her hand up for a while. No, Clodagh has got her hand up. If I can go to Clodagh.
Yeah, I almost forgot what I was going to say, but Damien, I noticed that you've used the word stigma several times, and I've often always equivocated chronic illness with stigmata when we're touched by the phenomenon and we're given these wounds. Now, I was raised Catholic, but I do not practice Roman Catholicism, but I have studied all the major world religions. And so in the path of the mystic, when you are touched by something that is really high energy, there are injuries received. And in your case, you also, discovered that you had this tumor in your stomach, which I believe, was that tumor releasing a hormone that was making your bones go sideways? Can't remember if you said that or not.
No, they did say it was a rare precancerous tumor.
Right.
I can't think of the exact scientific name for it now, but it was a rare precancerous tumor. But that's all he said. So he was lucky, and he said, "You're lucky that we found it when we did." So
the gift, if one could call chronic illness a gift, because it's a lot to swallow, as a human, to be in a body that's chronically ill. But the gift from enduring that is, boy, does it ever kick you in the nuts from an ego perspective. And it helps you to really get laser focused on what is important in life. And for me personally, I got to a point where I just didn't care anymore about my list of illnesses. Like literally, I'll go to the doctor and I'll do what they tell me to, but I've decided to get on with life, and I've devoted my life to be in service to humanity, and that's what invigorates this body. Is being in service to humanity. So if something important comes along that I'm going to participate in, my body becomes energetic and I'm able to get it done. And once that job is over, I go into another state of collapse. So it's almost as if something greater than myself has partnered with me to get things done. But I have paid the price of having chronic illness. So that's all I wanted to.
So you're reaping a benefit from the chronic illness now? Is that what you're saying?
Just from a spiritual
recovering and
perspective,
spiritual
just getting more clear around my role on the planet. And I don't mean that in a, mentally ill kind of, I'm, an important person. Just getting clear about what's really important right now in life and what is not important. And for me, it's relationships and family, and being able to participate in a job where I help other people. And so I sleep well at night. If I hadn't gone through my illness, I don't think I would have had that level of understanding. So that's what I mean by the gift of having chronic illness. It's almost accelerated my spiritual development.
Yeah, well, like they say, like the old Chinese prophets used to say, you have to have your ups and downs, right? You have to, in life, to really appreciate and respect life for what it truly is. So you have to experience both sides of everything. I believe that firmly too. I mean, I wouldn't be grounded as I am now if I didn't have the upbringing that I had. And it wasn't a grounded upbringing at all. It was quite the opposite. But I raised myself and I cooked for myself, and I had family or mother, but I didn't have a mother. So I, a lot of what I did notice though is a lot of people who do have pretty out there upbringings and a lot of pain in their life do tend to, I don't know whether this is a coincidence or not, but do tend to seem to believe in the spiritual more, see ghosts, this kind of stuff. Also UFOs as well. Now, but that's not the same with everybody, because if everybody who's experienced some hard times in their life, not everybody sees UFOs and ghosts. So maybe there might have to do something to do with a certain mindset, certain something to do with the human mind. Like I was saying before, with the Harvard Medical School study that they wanted me in, it was to get an MRI done on the brain. And apparently in people like myself who have had multiple sightings, multiple witnesses, multiple videos, and also physical proof of UFOs to get into the study, they found a couple of us around the world, and something to do with the brain in an MRI scan would light up in ways that no other part of the brain would light up. And they don't know the part of this brain that's lighting up, what it does. They still don't know what this exact part of the brain does. So it's really, really strange. And they're still trying to work it out, why this part of the brain in people who see paranormal UFOs on a regular basis, why is that lit up? And it's not lit up in 99.9998% of the world's population. That's another question. It's another really strange question. So it may have something to do with the human mind slightly, and other factors as well. So.
Hey, Damien, not seeing any other questions right now. And I'd like to personally just thank you for such a honest and a direct and a presentation filled with humility. And it's been a joy. I'd like to turn the meeting back over to Ross and let you say whatever you'd like to. So thank you.
Yes,
Paul. Thank you, sir.
Yes, thank you, Paul. Yes, thank you, and thank you, Damien, very much for everything. So what I was gonna say, geez, I think so I forgot in the very beginning who we are and what we are and what we're all about. So yes, we are BoulderExo. It's a exo consciousness, exopolitics, and exoculture. As I said, we are going through, I guess, a transformative times in our cultural evolution, in our species evolution, and I think so. We as a species, as a team, I would say people, and as a communities, as this community, as BoulderExo community, we have to stay together, keep together, because by really growing and evolving and raising our frequency and helping everybody around us evolve, and we're gonna really succeed. And there's a lot of confirmation for that. So, I mean, I don't know. I was kind of thinking, how should I end today's presentation? I'm looking at the clock, and still we have 10 minutes. It was one of our team members have sent I don't know, poem or reading by a Hopi Indian chief, a White Eagle. He have posted some very inspirational thing last month, and I don't know, hoping maybe that I should maybe read this to everybody who is here currently. So I don't know if as an ending, I guess, a message. So I don't know. I was, it's about a page or two, maybe it take me 5 minutes. But anyway, I don't know what else to say. I mean, it's really, we are really grateful and thankful that we are here as a community, and it's the gratitude that we have to really acknowledge, and who we are. We are enlightened souls, that we are here for a reason. This is not a coincidence. So we just have to remember that, and we have to be mindful of that. So yes, I want to thank you everyone for being here at this moment. So should I read this? I mean, anybody have a feeling for this or not? All right, I'll read it. All right, so what the heck, it's so this is, it is just gonna minimize this so I can see myself here. So this is a Hopi Indian chief, White Eagle, commended last month, really. And so it's basically his message is this moment in humanity is experiencing can be seen as a door or a hole. Quote, this moment that humanity is living through can be considered a door or a hole. The decision to fall into the hole or go through the door is yours. If you consume information 24 hours a day with negative energy, constantly nervous with pessimism, you will fall into this hole. But if you take the opportunity to look at yourself, to rethink life and death, to take care of yourself and others, you will go through the door. Take care of your home. Take care of your body. Connect with your spiritual home. When you take care of yourself, you take care of others at the same time. Do not underestimate the spiritual dimension of this crisis. Adopt the perspective of an eagle that sees everything from above within a broader vision. There is a social demand in this crisis, but also a spiritual demand. The two go hand in hand. Without the social dimension, we fall into the fanaticism. Without a spiritual dimension, we fall into pessimism and futility. You are prepared to go through this crisis. Grab your toolbox and use all the tools at your disposal. Learn to resist by example of the Indian and African people peoples. We have been and continue been exterminated. But we have stopped, but we have never stopped singing, dancing, lighting fires, and having joy. Don't feel guilty for feeling lucky in these difficult times, being sad and without energy. That does not help you at all. Resilience is resilience through joy. You have the right to be strong and positive. You have to maintain a beautiful, cheerful, and bright posture. This has nothing to do with alienation, ignorance of the world. It is strangely, it is a strategy of resistance. When we walk in the door, we have a new view of the world because we have faced our fears and difficulties. This is what you can do now. Serenity in a storm. Keep calm, meditate daily. Make a habit of encountering the sacred every day. Demonstrate resilience through art, joy, trust, and love. End of quote.
Very
so
good.
that's the closing message, and that will be my closing message. Really, it's remember
Very
art,
powerful.
joy, trust, and love. Take it in your heart, embody it, practice every day. So
Brilliant.
amen.
Thank you, Damien.
Very wise words.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Ross.
Damien.
Thank
Great-
you, Damien.
Great work,
You're
Damien.
welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for having me on the show, and
Thanks,
thanks to your
Damien.
audience. I really appreciate it.
And our next event will be I don't know, next month
We
sometime.
don't know yet. We're
Yeah.
on hold.
Yes, we are trying to. I'm trying to contact some people, and so we're trying to nail down some dates and some presenters.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
everybody. Good
Yeah.
night. Thanks,
Good day.
Mary Ann. Thanks,
All
Paul.
right, guys.
Thanks,
Good night.
Ross.
Night.
Good night.
Thank you. Thanks, Damien. Thank you.